pros do things very efficiently. There's a few things they start a little different, they finish a little different. But much like the ground strokes, I like to get really close to contact to see what they do similar. And that's where they all do get really similar. That's where style goes out the window and fundamentals in science and physics come into play. There's subtle ranges of correctness on this, but they're all pretty much on a continental grip. So that's what we'll go over that here today. We'll show you the grip. Naomi Osaka is someone who comes to mind that gets a little off continental sometimes, but she's still relatively close. Everyone can use a continental grip. That's not something pros do that we can't do. That's something everyone can do. The other commonality we see in pros is when they have that continental grip, we see this racket pass over their head in like a hair brushing position. So it starts here and it passes over his head in a hairbrush position, okay? Now this is something we might not be able to do to this level.
That's very stretched.
Djokovic, even more than other pros, has a lot of dexterity in his body. So when we measure his racket drop, getting almost to his knees, we don't have to do that. But we do think the racket dropping should get near your butt. We do look for that racket drop position. Now, one thing you can't see great from this angle, but I want you to notice, is the racket's not near his back right now. Because that's a big myth in tennis, that you have to scratch your back or that the racket has to come from the back. Notice how the racket definitely came around to the side and it aligned with the right side of his body over here. So that's really important to know, because what that means is that makes it feel more like a throwing motion and kind of a continuous loop, rather than thinking like, oh, it stops at my back and then I come from the back. That's what loads the shoulder, okay? Now, here's where things get really tricky. We're going to be looking for all you guys on this. Flat or spin. And now this is a spin serve, which I think everyone should be working on first, but flat or spin, we want to see you look like you're going to chop the ball in half. We want to see the edge of this racket come into the ball as long as possible. Greg calls it delay the pronation. But we want to see you as long as possible look like you're going to chop it in half. This is called leading in with edge. And now what's going to happen is, as he's striking that ball, he's turning his arm out to the wristwatch position. This is called pronation, the inward to outward rotation of that forearm. So if he had a wristwatch on, he could see it now. But watch, this is what's important. This is where fundamentals are in play and style is outplay. Edge, me working on spin and second serves with you is going to be big today, and I really want you to pay attention how these guys all make contact on the inside of the hand. I think when we film you guys, we're going to see a lot of contact above and on the outside of the hand. But this is huge because that means his racket on the inside, his racket is still progressing up. So if he hits it later, like if he hit it here, he's kind of at full extension now. There's really no more room to brush up. So this little bit of room he gives him as his racket's still progressing up and his arm's even still straightening a little is how you're going to get a forward rotation on the ball over your head. And when I talked at lunch about acceptance windows and making the serve safer and being able to even get so good that you can mess with how much spin you get, this is what I was talking to. Can you hit a forward spin over your head? Now there's a huge connection between this and what we talked about on the ground strokes yesterday. Okay, do you get the ball to go up through friction or do you get the ball to go up through the angle of the racket face? Is your perception that ball's on the strings longer than it is? I hope not, because all you got to do is, this is like equivalent of a closed racket face on the forehand, having the racket on edge. If you turn the palm up, it's like having an open racket face on your forehand. You have to flip, you have to make all kinds of adjustments. So that's something that's going to be really important that we're looking for. Now, Djokovic does it, but what about everyone else? Is Coach Jeff making this up? I've been known to fib sometimes. Who's this guy? Anyone know? Wawrinka.
He's very different.
He is different. He doesn't coil his body as good in my opinion, but what he does have is a hairbrush, continental grip, racket on edge, comes around to the side. His body does look different though, doesn't it? Never really analyzed his serve, but I think he could definitely add some miles per hour. But that doesn't matter. What matters is he's chopping the ball in half. He's striking the ball on the inside of the hand as his racket is still progressing up and forward, by the way. It's not just, some people think it's a straight across chop. It's forward up. It's just like the ground strokes. You don't want to go straight up, then the ball's not going to go anywhere. And he's going to finish in the wristwatch position. All right, but look, guys, same thing. Hairbrush. You see how it kind of brushes over his head. You guys could all do this today. Edge into the ball. This right here is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
This is how you make your acceptance window bigger, and you can still crush it, just like those ground strokes. He gets a really defined wristwatch position. Looks like he's jumping out of a tree.
Wow, he had a high jump in the
I
air.
don't know if you guys have heard of this guy before, but his name's Roger Federer.
He has the most elegant surf.
Hairbrush, edge.
His
This
surf
is-
never.
This is where it's really important. How are you going to hit hard, out wide angles to your opponent if you can't get a forward spin on the ball? How is he going to nail this hard, out wide serve outside to his opponent if you can't do that? I will some close-ups because this is just so important. This is where style, forget about style. This is
Right.
where this is the first drill I'm going to take you through, by the way, also.